Hello there, and welcome to the Business of Story. I'm Park Howell, and today marks the first in a series of episodes where I'm going to help you create a clear focus for your business storytelling, whether that's clarifying your brand story, crafting a single powerful problem solution narrative to make your sales presentations more persuasive, or anytime you must have your message land right the first time, which is, of course, every time. So today, we will explore Chapter 1 of my book, Brand Bewitchery, How to Wield the Story Cycle System to Craft Spellbinding Stories for Your Brand, and how you can apply this proven storytelling framework in all of your communications. All that and more as we introduce you to this Brand Bewitchery series on the Business of Story. I published Brand Bewitchery in June of 2020. Yep, that's right when COVID had its grip on our collective jugulars. More and more people have been asking me for an audio version of the book, but I haven't gotten to it because I've been so busy training solopreneurs, entrepreneurs with small to mid-sized businesses, and large iconic international brands like Dell, the Home Depot, and the U.S. Air Force leadership, and a lot of others, how to excel through the stories they tell. Like you, given that I'm strapped for time, I thought, what would be the quickest and most impactful way to publish my audiobook? So instead of sitting down for days in a recording studio, I've decided to bring you a chapter a week over the next few months so that you can benefit from the storytelling instruction, examples, and exercises featured in Brand Bewitchery, and you get to use it immediately. So today, we will actually cover two chapters. The first, I'll read to you how to wield Brand Bewitchery as a guidebook, and then we'll dive into Chapter 1, titled Backstory, How to Clarify Your Brand Story for Deliberate Growth. Next week, we will cover Chapter 2 of Brand Bewitchery, titled Heroes, How to Understand Your Customers to Build a Tribe. But before we get started, I would like to introduce you to Emmy award-winning TV producer Val Brown and what she thought of our recent ABTs of Storytelling Mastery course.
Hi there, I'm Val Brown. I'm an Emmy award-winning television producer and communication coach. And part of what I do every day is craft effective, memorable stories. And I'm always looking for ways to elevate my skills. But if you're anything like me, you know how hard it can be in the daily hustle to learn a new skill, and much less learn a new skill from someone that you trust. And that's the reason I jumped at the chance to work with Park when he offered the Business of Story Mastery course. I've been following Park for years, and I could not wait to learn the ABT story structure from him, and I wasn't disappointed. The quality of the instruction, the participants in the cohort, that coupled with Park's enthusiasm and his generosity with his knowledge was truly remarkable. And I love that the framework is based in science. Now, I walked away from the course with new skills that I can use in my business immediately. And I can honestly say I've studied numerous story frameworks over the past 3 decades. And I can confidently say that the Business of Story Mastery course is truly exceptional.
If you have an interest in attending an upcoming ABTs of Business Storytelling Mastery course, then please, by all means, shoot me a note over to park@businessofstory.com. I'd love to hear from you and save your place in our next cohort. Now, let's crack open Brand Bewitchery to help you clarify your business storytelling. Chapter 1, Backstory. How to clarify your brand story for deliberate growth. Quote, when one has taken root, one puts out branches. End quote. Jules Verne. Celebrate your differences. Take a moment right now and consider your origin story. Where you came from, where you are now, and where you're headed. This is your backstory, the foundation for everything to come. You and I came into this world as a commodity until we defined our personalities. As we grew, we became known for special abilities that made us different from our siblings and unique to our friends. We became the go-to guy or gal in the schoolyard for our special ability. We learned that the things that make us different are the things that make us stand out. That was our first lesson in branding. It's a survival instinct. In Campbell's hero's journey, we're introduced to the main characters in their ordinary world. This is where we get their backstory to set the stage for everything to come. I use this plot point as the backstory in the story cycle system. This is where you describe what you have built as a product or service offering and how its superiority is defined by its functional uniqueness. My own personal brand backstory began in the ordinary world of Woodinville, Washington. Our mom and dad, Keith and Pat Howell, got married in 1954. They were 28 and 29 years old respectively, which is kind of late in the getting married process for their generation. So they wasted no time. Cranked out 7 kids in 9 years, and I was number 5. Our dad had one rule for our brood at the dinner table. You had to keep one foot on the floor. Everything else was free market dining. This was simply a reflection of what he thought about life. Quote, "You have to take care of yourself because no one else will," end quote, he coached us. I'm sure this sentiment was a product of his Depression-era upbringing in Sheldon, North Dakota. My mom and dad gave our childhood home, a 12-acre spread in Woodinville, nestled among the rain-slicked evergreens and dewy blackberry vines, a brand name. 50 years later, it is still known as the Happy H, an enduring brand that represents what they stand for, finding and promoting happiness in the lives of everyone they came to know and love. Happy was the North Star that guided everything they did and how they raised us. This sentiment remains at the heart of our ever-growing extended families. One time when we were all piled in the town and country station wagon, off on another adventure, my younger brother Chris asked Dad if we were rich. Without hesitation, he answered, quote, "We sure are, 7 kids rich," unquote. That's just the way they rolled. Keith loved the 7 dwarfs because they reminded him of us kids. What I find interesting about this Disney comparison is that each dwarf had its own distinct brand. Happy, Sleepy, Dopey, Bashful, Sneezy, Doc, and Grumpy. And each used their unique brand position to win the affections of Snow White. I realized at an early age the importance of standing out in a crowded, competitive market, especially if I was going to get my fair share in the hungry Howell household. I like to express my creativity. I started taking piano lessons in the 3rd grade, wrote songs through high school, and earned a degree in music composition and theory in college. As a kid, I wore a ridiculous milkman's hat everywhere. It was distinct because it had the same blocky color design as the Partridge Family's bus. Look it up. I'm not sure if my brand actually curried favor with my parents, but like my name, it made me distinct from Dan, Melody, Tom, Steve, Chris, and Mike, who are a construction manager, Arabian horse trainer, construction manager, physical therapist, farrier, and equine veterinarian, respectively, each finding their own unique brand voice. While getting my music degree, I learned the power of a focused brand during a popular marketing course in the Edward R. Murrow School of Communication at Washington State University. Figuring I probably wouldn't achieve fame and fortune as a composer, I hedged my bet with a degree in communications, too. Now, continuing a 35-year career in branding arts, I combine all these attributes to help leaders of purpose-driven brands excel through the stories they tell, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. What are the curiosities and passions that drive your success? Which dwarf are you? Tap into these core attributes as you work through the story cycle system. When you do, you will win the affections of your customers, your employees, your shareholders and stakeholders, even your vendors. Competing in a land of abundance. Capitalism and market dynamics are based on the law of scarcity, but we live in a time of abundance. Your customers and my customers have myriad choices for practically every product and service we seek. So how do we make our offerings stand out to become the choice to an overwhelmed world? Wikipedia lists 160 brands of shoes, and that doesn't include their sub-brands. In the U.S. alone, 164 car brands compete for your attention, but you probably only know Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, Jeep, and Tesla. And among the big three are 10 sub-brands. In the realm of American professional services, there are around 42,000 CPA firms, around 50,000 law firms, and, gasp, 1.34 million lawyers. If you're an MBA, welcome to the crowd. U.S. universities graduate approximately 200,000 MBAs every year. Some experts argue that the ubiquity of the master's degree has diluted its appeal in business. It's no longer a differentiator unless you're in a specialized field. I experienced the need to define a personal brand even in the context of the market for master's degrees. In 2013, I began a 5-year stint creating and teaching the Story Cycle system at Arizona State University for its Executive Masters of Sustainability Leadership, EMSL, program. EMSL is a 12-month master's program that elevates middle managers into high-level positions in their organizations and industries by focusing their business expertise on sustainability. Executives for such global brands as Cummins, American Express, and Bayer use our course to clarify their personal sustainability leadership stories to amplify the story's impact on their careers and in the world. I was one of 4 professors. My job was to turn executives into chief storytelling officers to help them advance their social initiatives further and faster through the power of a focused story. Plus, the EMSL degree differentiates our graduates from all other MBAs because it instills in them a personalized, purpose-driven focus. My goal was to help each graduate stand out by clearly communicating what they stand for. Your brand point of view. The first step in truly understanding what you stand for is to articulate your backstory by defining your functional position in the marketplace. In her book, Fascinate, How to Make Your Brand Impossible to Resist, international brander Sally Hogshead says you defined your brand position by asking yourself this question, quote, what do you do differently and therefore better than anyone else, end quote. In my estimation, Fascinate is one of the 3 most important books on finding your brand's place in the world that you should include in your library. Another is the marketing classic that defined positioning, called Positioning, The Battle for Your Mind, How to Be Seen and Heard in the Overcrowded Marketplace by Jack Trout and Al Reese. The third book is what I believe is the modern version of positioning, a book titled Play Bigger, How Pirates, Dreamers, and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets, co-authored by Christopher Lochhead, one of my Business of Story podcast guests. In Play Bigger, Lochhead and Company describe how to create a point of view or POV for your brand. When I read their example of a brand POV, I intuitively recognized its power to focus a brand story and saw how it was a natural outcome of defining your backstory in the Story Cycle system. As you determine your number 1 position in the market, you are establishing your brand's point of view. And a really strong and differentiated position will act to design a whole new market category where you're the king or queen. The best way to demonstrate the POV is to show it to you in how we position a new all-natural allergy product that we launched in the spring of 2018 called Heirloom. Think about the POV of your brand as you read through Heirloom's origin story and brand POV story. Your brand origin story defines your market category. The creator of Heirloom came home following another day of performing delicate spinal surgeries to find his young wife collapsed on the living room floor of their Washington, D.C. condominium. For 5 years, she had battled allergies. They had seen top medical specialists who put her on several medications, including steroids and antihistamines, even injections. These helped, but also caused harsh side effects. She suffered from weight gain, fatigue, irritability, sleeplessness, dry eyes, and decreased daytime alertness. He kneeled next to her and asked what was wrong. Quote, I took all of my meds, but I think they're making me sicker, she told him. You're so brilliant and help everyone else. Please find a way to help me, she pleaded. Using the same rigor of study that had him graduate at the top of his classes and leading medical schools and surgical training programs, he began researching all natural remedies that didn't promote the side effects common with big pharma meds. He discovered 5 plant-based flavonoids or phytonutrients that had proved effective in combating allergies by naturally supporting healthy respiratory and immune systems. But he couldn't find them in one supplement, so he formulated his own remedy. She tried it and found relief from her allergies in just 48 hours. Friends and family marveled at her transformation and asked to try the formula themselves. His trial group grew over 5 years until one day they realized they had to make their all-natural allergy remedy known to the world. We were lucky. Avinta Foya, the mindfully indomitable CEO of Adelante Healthcare, referred her friends who created the allergy supplement and asked us to help them craft the brand story for their new allergy product. Aveen had already experienced the power of the Story Cycle System brand strategy process when we helped her rebrand the community healthcare center she led in Arizona. The rebranding was a tremendous success, sparking 600% growth in the ensuing years that turned the center into one of the nation's leaders in sustainable healthcare. Define your number one position in the marketplace. The first step in the Story Cycle System is to define your defendable, differentiated brand position in the marketplace. You accomplish this by considering the backstory of your offering and articulating how you functionally stand out in the market. In other words, how are you different and more distinctive than your competitors? Don't worry if your brand differentiation isn't made clear immediately to you, especially if you are competing in a highly commoditized industry. The Story Cycle System will help you ferret out your differentiator as you pursue your narrative journey throughout the process. For now, craft your brand position statement to where it feels like you're in the ballpark. You'll hit it out of the stadium later. One way to define your number one position in the market is to use Lockheed's POV exercise. I like it because its natural narrative structure makes you consider all the market dynamics your brand is up against and think about how to turn numerous obstacles into opportunities. As you hone your story, your market category emerges. You carefully consider your position of strength within your category and ultimately arrive at your number one specialty as captured in your position statement. I've provided an exercise at the end of this chapter to help you claim your number one position in the market. A super focused position statement will define a whole new market category that you can lead and dominate because you created the category. With the first argument in his book, Hitmakers, The Science of Popularity in an Age of Distraction, Derek Thompson posits that hits like movies, songs, and books are the product of something familiar, contorted with a surprising twist. Quote, most consumers are simultaneously neophiliac, curious to discover new things, and deeply neophobic, afraid of anything that's too new. The best hit makers are gifted at creating moments of meaning by marrying new and old, anxiety and understanding. They are architects of familiar surprises, end quote. I believe this is an excellent way to think about your position statement. You want to communicate the familiar market category you service to connect with your customers first for meaning, but to stand out and create curiosity, you must be novel. The Mini Cooper is more than a sports car. The brand's marketers crafted a new, more exhilarating market category, motoring. To separate itself from all other customer relationship management platforms, HubSpot coined the term inbound marketing and designed its new category to lead this market segment. Elvis didn't set out to disrupt the existing category of jazz. He created a new one, vamping off the familiarity of rhythm and blues to become the king of rock and roll. How we overcame the congested market of all natural allergy supplements. I mentioned that in 2018, we worked with a company called Heirloom, which we thought was well positioned to own the all-natural allergy supplement category. But when we Googled all-natural allergy supplements, we found more than 20 million hits. So we checked Amazon. It delivered us more than 36 pages of products with the same search. To craft Heirloom's position statement, one that would leverage the familiar market segment of all-natural allergy supplements, but in a novel way, we deployed Lockheed's POV narrative exercise. Here is the script we crafted to develop and launch their new category. Here we go. How many times do you breathe each day? About 20,000 inhales and exhales. And that's not always easy if you suffer from airborne allergens. Some 50 million Americans do, 75% of whom still rely on over-the-counter medications. But they don't realize that these drugs are often ineffective and could be making them even sicker. WebMD lists 35 side effects to common allergy meds, including dry mouth, drowsiness, itching, irritability, and nightmares. But they don't mention what other studies have found, that prescription and OTC allergy drugs can lead to cognitive impairment, including a lower IQ and potential increases in dementia and Alzheimer's. When it comes to understanding the true impacts of allergy meds, Americans are suffering from a severe case of mental mucus. Until now. Introducing Heirloom for conscious allergy relief. Heirloom is the smartest all-natural support for allergy season with the most potent herbal supplement formulation designed for people mindful toward their mind and body. It's small batch, fresh allergy relief centered on clearing the air about the environmental and big pharma impacts of allergy season on you, so you can inhale a healthy dose of life again. The Conscious Seasonal Wellness Brand Story. We had the ideal category designed to carve out our niche in the congested all-natural allergy supplement industry. Quote, conscious allergy relief, end quote. Our target customers were found in the yoga and mindfulness communities, two growing practices that both begin with breath. When allergies restrict your breathing, your experience is diminished. Our strategy was to help people, quote, own their breath, end quote, with Heirloom. This target audience was already thinking about natural health and wellness, and when they discovered something that works, Heirloom, they become the ultimate, quote-unquote, sneezers. They talked about the product with their friends and happily built our word-of-mouth marketing to help us grow into a larger consumer market. But the problem is the Food and Drug Administration wouldn't allow us to say allergy relief, even though numerous studies from around the world have documented the efficacy of Heirloom's 5 botanical ingredients: grapeseed extract, quercetin, bromelain, butterbur extract, and turmeric. We couldn't say allergy relief because the couple who created Heirloom and who have brought it to market entirely with their own money couldn't afford, like most natural supplement creators, the millions of dollars in studies the FDA requires to make such claims. It's not surprising that the FDA wields so much power over natural supplement marketers. These marketers compete with Big Pharma, the top lobbying industry in Washington, D.C. Big Pharma invested $269 million in lobbying efforts in 2017, outspending its nearest competitor, the insurance industry, by 57%, according to Statista, which tracks lobbying expenditures. So, as brand storytellers for Heirloom, we had to use what FDA attorneys label, quote, mere puffery, unquote, to describe how this all-natural supplement works. We prefer to call it enthusiastic euphemisms. These are constructed using metaphors, which actually make for compelling brand storytelling because metaphors allow audiences to connect the dots. They become an active participant in the story. Enthusiastic euphemisms include thoughts like these. Heirloom's ingredients read more like a shopping list from your local farmer's market than something you'd find in a drugstore. Encouraging healthy histamine levels without the mind-numbing side effects of Big Pharma. Heirloom helps keep your immune system in chill mode by supporting a healthy immune response to seasonal stress. So we changed conscious allergy relief to conscious seasonal wellness, but the market position we designed and our target audience strategy remained intact. The goal of Heirloom is not just to provide relief from seasonal airborne irritants, but to awaken the masses to the side effects of prescription drugs and OTC medications when nature provides what you need for better health. We would phrase it like this for customers, quote, if you want to be mindful of the environmental and big pharma impacts on you and your loved ones due to airborne allergens, then try Heirloom. It's your conscious seasonal wellness supplement that supports a healthy respiratory and immune system so you can inhale a healthy dose of life, end quote. Which leads us to our FDA-approved disclaimer. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. To summarize, the couple who created Heirloom began by solving a problem and fulfilling a need for their customers. Then they took the time to understand the market environment they would be competing in by articulating the brand's POV. Once they clarified their position in the marketplace, they articulated it by crafting a position statement claiming their number one position, which they would define and defend against the competition. These efforts created meaning for their customers about what Heirloom stood for: conscious seasonal wellness. I hope this brand story has cleared up your mental mucus too. By the way, notice the strategic use of the word but in Heirloom's POV story. You'll learn the immense power of that little word in all of your brand storytelling in Chapter 4. Now it's your turn to design your market category using the story cycle system. Let me do a quick bit of table setting here, just so you fully know how to get the most out of this book. Each chapter that details a part of the 10-step story cycle system will be presented in 3 steps. Step 1, I'll provide you the example of how I have used the concepts in the chapter to create my own business of story brand. Plus, I'll usually include third-party case studies, such as Heirloom's story above. Step 2, I'll demonstrate how to use the brand story crafting worksheet to summon the unique narrative elements that will reveal your brand story. Step 3, you'll work the exercise to cast the particular spell for your brand story. Plus, at the end of each chapter, I'll connect you with key insights provided by international story artists who have shared their expertise with my listeners on the Business of Story podcast. Listen in. I promise it will be worth it. Also, you can start building your own business storytelling library with the additional written and video resources we'll provide. I'll even throw in a few extracurricular activities to help you and your people build your storytelling muscles outside of the office. These aren't mandatory, but they are fun. The story quests will evolve you from an intuitive storyteller to an intentional one, activating in you the most underutilized but powerful skill in business. You'll soon learn that you can use stories to nudge the world in any direction you choose. Declare your number one position in the marketplace. I've been in advertising and branding for nearly 35 years, and I have helped hundreds of organizations grow through the influence of mass media. But the internet has shifted the balance of power, allowing the masses to become the media. They can and will control your brand story if they're even listening to you at all. Therefore, in 2016, I founded the Business of Story to consult, teach, coach, and speak on the applied science and bewitchery of storytelling to help leaders of purpose-driven brands clarify their stories, amplify their impact, and simplify their lives. The 3 paragraphs above are a super concise 3-act summary of my backstory, including setup, problem, and resolution to set the stage for my overall brand story. This simplified and focused version of the Business of Story backstory was distilled by parsing my own much longer origin story. By the way, if you are intrigued about the genesis of the business of story and our proven story cycle system, then please read my personal origin story in Appendix 2. It will provide you a deeper understanding of how the story cycle system developed into what it is now and why it works so well. You can do the same thing. Consider where have you been, where you are now, and where you are going. Write your backstory so that it captures the origins of your brand and why you do what you do, and share it with others. Then simplify your backstory to make it as concise and specific as possible. For example, I wrote the first paragraph of this section, my backstory summary, from what follows. Where we have been. I have been in the advertising, marketing, and branding industry for 35 years. Ran my own ad agency called Park & Co. for 20 years, and have been steeped in brand storytelling for the past 15 plus years. Our agency helped hundreds of brands and the thousands of people who supported them grow through traditional advertising and public relations. We were experts at growing purpose-driven brands that focused on the environment, education, and social causes. But in 2006, the advertising paradigm shifted. Technology and the internet began leveling the communications playing field. While brands used to own the influence of mass media, the masses were becoming the media. External and internal communications have undergone a tectonic shift as our audiences are now floating in a sea of blogs, tweets, YouTube videos, Snapchats, emails, and texts, all of which combine to drown out our messages. People who thought the internet promised greater connection found themselves increasingly disconnected by virtue of a screen versus a scene, the actual human connection of one-on-one in-person communication. I learned that the primal power of story is the answer to overcoming the cacophony of communication created by our technological prowess. An anecdote is the antidote. Where we are now. As of 2016, I pivoted Park & Company away from operating as a full-service ad agency to an internationally acclaimed business storytelling consultancy for purpose-driven brands. Our business of story offering includes brand story strategy creation and consulting, teaching an 8-week story mastery program for teams, coaching storytelling for leaders and salespeople, and keynote speaking on the power of story in all personal and professional pursuits. Brands that rely on the business of story programs include global enterprises like the United States Air Force, Cummins, American Express, Wynn Resorts, Hilton, McCormick's, and Forever Living Products International. We also assist academic institutions such as Emory University, Arizona State, Washington State University, and Nova Southeastern University, as well as emerging challenger brands. We also help individual executives seeking to sharpen the contours and grow the influence of their personal brands. Executives access the story cycle system through books, online training, our popular weekly podcast, DIY brand development, full brand consulting, storytelling workshops, and speaking engagements. Where we are going. As of this writing, the business of story is 5 years old, although I've been learning, consulting, and teaching on brand storytelling since 2006. Like all industries, and given the interest in storytelling today, there are innumerable self-proclaimed story gurus to choose from. Most tell you that storytelling is important in your business and present opinions, assertions, and generalizations about how you're supposed to use narrative. The business of story is different. Like the writing axiom, don't tell, show, we reveal to you the applied science and bewitchery of storytelling so that you can wield it immediately in your life. We believe you must understand the magic to cast the spell. So we teach you how to tell stories on purpose. There are storytelling coaches who focus on personal development, innovation, diversity and inclusion, and branding for startups, small companies, technology, healthcare, you name it. The business of story focuses on helping individuals clarify their stories amplify their impact, and simplify their lives, whether they are increasing the influence of their personal brand or growing their enterprises and their people. We will scale the Business of Story platform to be a leading international story consultancy with physical workbooks, online training, and immersive workshops and master classes. We will measure our impact by the number of people served, as well as the financial ROI attributed to storytelling our clients share with us. We will develop a company that will be valued at a minimum of 4 times revenue by 2025. When you write down your backstory, as I have done above, you begin to see your brand's unique point of view in the world. As your POV becomes clearer, your number one position in the marketplace starts to reveal itself. Define a sturdy market position, and you will essentially create a new market category for your offering that your brand will absolutely own. Now it's your turn. Please share your backstory. The more detailed, the better. A rule of narrative is that the story is found in the specifics, so be specific. Write down where have you been, where you are now, and where you are going. From your backstory, dial in your number one position in the marketplace. I learned this exercise from a book I read back in the late 1990s. I wish I could recall the title and its author or authors, but I'm telling you now in case they come across this guidebook and say, well, WTF, this guy's using our positioning method. I share it because it works. Here's how I've used it for the Business of Story. Industry. We are in the communications industry. Category. We're in the advertising, marketing, and sales category of the communications industry. Specialty. Strategic brand storytelling. Number one specialty. The Business of Story is the number one resource for leaders of purpose-driven brands to align their people, engage their customers, and build trust for their offering using the proven power of the story cycle system. We exclusively offer the proprietary story cycle system process, which enables us to design a new market category of brand story strategy creation with intention. The category we designed is purpose-driven brand storytelling. A more fun way to say it is telling stories on purpose. And our efforts manifest themselves in leaders of purpose-driven brands who evolve from innate storytellers to intentional ones, helping them excel through the stories they tell. This is the first step out of the primordial muck of commoditization. Here is where you define what you functionally do differently and therefore better than your competitors. Claim your number one position in the marketplace that you can own and defend, and consider how you can design a new category around it. How does your position statement, your number one specialty, compare with mine? Is it unique to you, relevant to your customers, and defendable from encroaching competitors? The anatomy of a declarative position statement is fluid, but here's a simple way to write yours. Again, I'll use my own brand as an example. Name your brand. In my case, the Business of Story. Identify your audience for leaders of purpose-driven brands. Declare what you solve, who want to clarify their stories, amplify their impact, and simplify their lives. Announce your unique offering. Mine is the proven power of the story cycle system, which they can't get from any other provider. What market position can you own? The Business of Story is the number one resource for leaders of purpose-driven brands to align their people, engage customers, and build trust in their offering using the proven power of the story cycle system. With my example in mind, craft your own position statement and see if you can define a new market category that is familiar but novel. Final thoughts. Congratulations, you've taken that first step to clarifying your brand story. You considered your backstory about the origin of your brand and declared your number one position in the marketplace. If your new market category is not immediately apparent to you, no worries. It will reveal itself as you complete the rest of the book. Then you can return to your backstory, clarifying your position statement even more. This backstory/market position exercise is the only activity in the story cycle system that focuses on the function of your offering. It's enormously important to determine what you do differently and distinctively than your competition to make you stand out. But now, there's another thing to consider. What do you stand for? From here on, you'll begin to humanize your brand, illuminating it with every step of this purpose-driven storytelling system. So when you're ready, turn to Chapter 2 and say hello to the true heroes in your brand journey, your audiences. Additional resources. If you would like a deeper dive into creating your position statement and designing your category, visit businessofstory.com/backstory for these great resources. Number 1, read Volume 1 of the Business of Story online magazine, Backstory, Determining Your Brand Position. Listen to Christopher Lockhead on the Business of Story podcast, How to Play Bigger and Dominate a Category. Watch my quick explanation on how to claim your number one position in the marketplace at bit.ly/storycycle-backstory. Download your DIY brand story crafting guide. Story on activity. Your first extracurricular activity is an easy one. Find 3 brands, large, medium, and small, that you think do a good job of owning and defending their number one position in the marketplace. Ask yourself why their story works for you. My examples are Apple, which actually encourages you to think different. Man Crates, which uses brand storytelling for one purpose only, to send cool stuff to men. Santa Rick, Atlanta's premier real birded Santa, available year-round for private parties, corporate events, and print, radio, TV advertisements. Santas are as ubiquitous as Elvis impersonators, but Santa Rick's specific brand position is jollier than most. And I have one more favorite brand example. It's called The Happy H, the home I grew up in Woodinville, Washington.